Hi guys, welcome to the second project-centered JavaScript programming language course. In this course, as you are able to see on this page, we intend to design a software. But what is this software going to do? Not a software actually, but a small project that by mixing some items, this software is going to set up such a program on JavaScript. Our purpose in doing so is to make you familiarized by the user interface concepts, that is, designing the user interface and even the color psychology on such projects. The space that you see over here belongs to a software called Adobe Experience Design or Adobe XD. Through this software, we will be able to design a user interface for our web, desktop, and mobile softwares, and of course, using the UX or the user experience that we work with can be applied on this software and perform our specific actions. Working on this program happens in a way so that at first you will be able to have some routine list of things that you do over here, and any of them that will be finished or completed will be accessed by clicking on the check that you see over here, and thereby it will be added to the lower part. It is similar to Windows Scheduler, with the difference being that it has a very exciting interface. We are going to work with it and see how we can set it up after all. We have two sections. The first one is designing the user interface that we are going to design right now in this session over here. And the way we approach it is to define such a user interface, that is the page that we work with as a specific software, and move forward with the rest of the actions based on our own taste and take care of other stuff. But regarding how it has been designed, I need to explain this to you in a session. Okay, and tell you how we can set up such a user interface. First, let's start and see how we can design such a user interface. I need to point this out that the items that you see over here, that is the items that are over here and here, are for web. These icons are very applicable and useful on web, and you can download them. But to do this, I am using another software, and I suggest you to use the same software to download these icons as well. And if we were to open that program, the program is called Pecan. Con, of course, stands for icon, and this is an open source version of the software. You will be able to access to all kinds of icons here, the stuff you need on the software, many of the user interface styles that happen to come in handy in different projects. The iOS, Android, and Windows can be accessed here, and any one of them that you want can be downloaded the way you want them, and you can access them pretty easily by going through routine procedures. The colorings that are available here, as you can see, imagine you're looking for a certain spectrum of colors. You can have your icons in this spectrum of colors. As you see quite beautifully, there is a change of colors, and I am able to change the icons based on my desired outcome and start working with them. I can use this option over here in order to have access to the suffix of each one of these icons. For instance, you may want to have an ICO with a certain size. You can have from 16 pixels to 256 pixels, or you may want to have XML or EPS or any other options provided for you. But imagine that you want an SVG. In the SVG, the largest size that I can have is 500 pixels. You can of course modify this to a size that you want without any reduction in the quality. Imagine you choose 1024 pixels for your project. When you choose 1024 PNG, when you make this one save as and keep it on your system, for example, if I save this on my desktop like this, and if I go to the desktop here, the icon file that you see over there would be familiar and visible without any change in the quality of the icon that you have just saved. I will be able to have the icon at any size that I want. So here, regarding the icons, we are utilizing these software to provide us with those specific high quality icons. And as a matter of fact, we are using this software for downloading the icons, and probably you can use the same one to serve your purpose. But how can we set this up? I set it over here. Let's see, I use the combination keys Alt and Shift and make a copy out of this, and all the times I can erase them. Even, let's see, imagine now I zoom in to see how things are. As you see, this is the header that I have over here, the header that you can see here. Any color that you like, you can give it a shadow. The shadow that is over here, by clicking it, will be applied. You can have access to the items that are available over there, which are very beautiful. You can give them radius. Of course, you will be able to do the same thing in the Photoshop, but Adobe XD has been exclusively designed for user interface icons and setting up a very exciting interface. And nowadays, most of the mobile and web developers use the same user interface in choosing and designing their specific icons, and they are beautifully taking advantage of this program and using specific and high quality features. And you can have lots of options over here. Imagine if I were to design the type of icon I have here. First, as you see, the border radius is 5. I just need to have an item like this at first, and I want to see how it works. I remove the border, give it number 5, and give it a shadow. The shadow that can be accessed over here. Here, which number have I added? 1 and 2. Now here I just need to give it 1 and here 2. As you see, just like that, we can have such an icon. Or you may want to design this line or border that is around here, that you see. There is a gadget called line, whereby you can design a line such as this and change and adjust its different shape and format. Now, if I were to get the color code of this one, I go to the spectrum, to this color. Here, the border that is here, I copy and paste it and replace it with a former one, just like this. So there is no special detail. I am sure you will fall in love with it. You can work with it easily. It is a very useful and practical software. You can make powerful and complicated interfaces and incorporate them inside your project. So if you stay with me, we are going to have our first session and see how we will be able to set this app up, and we are going to design the same thing on web using the CSS, JavaScript and HTML and make it operational. Hi guys, well, in the previous session we went through some details as to how this application is going to work and perform its actions. We analyzed the user interface, and now based on the user interface that we have just designed, we are going to design the files and the projects and take care of the rest of the details. At first, just like we did with our basic project, I am going to need three files. The first one is HTML, that is used for the framework. The second one is the CSS, that is reason for the style of the project, and the third one is the JavaScript, that is going to be responsible for the processes of the software. Okay, so we start. At first, I have opened the Visual Studio Code space. Here I hit this button. I will be able to have a new file, just like the former project. What do? I make a file titled the suffix index.html and save it. Then I go over here on this page, as you can see, and here, alright, type index.html is the first file, and index file, the first file, I say a style.css. Okay, that's what we have over here. And finally, the third file, I say a script.js. Exactly as before, no extra stuff. Now, what do we need to do? That might be a good question. Using, as we did with the project we had before, I'm not going to repeat the explanations. You are going to have to figure them out yourself and know what we are doing. I type HTML file colon and tag. I send the name of the project. I say list work or list of the works dash project. Okay, in the body I want to have a header, so I set up a header in the body of my project, and as you are seeing in the app, I want to have a header. My project consists of some sections. One of them is a header, and after the header we have a container. Inside this container I am going to set these items, the items that have not been completed yet, and I am going to do that by clicking on this button. They are going to be completed and move down here. Okay, so what we need to do is like this, and in fact here I need to use the header tag. This is the header tag. Now what do I need to have in this header? The first thing that we need to do, we need to have an input. What is our input? Our input is what the user is going to type and enter. Here exactly in this section we have an input. We need to build a framework of this input, and after that we go to the CSS, and let's zoom in so that you see everything clearly and in detail. Okay, that's how it is. So now I have designed a header, and now inside this header I am going to define an internal input. So how am I going to define it? Say input. Okay, and now I set it like this. The type would be text or txt. Okay, and now the next step, this is the type that is going to receive input. We have a feature called placeholder. This is the placeholder over here that you see, the item that has been written here. Of course, in the project it is a little discolored. If I were to discolor this, let me go over here. I need to darken the file like this, and usually of course it is white. It would look like this. It looks like a caption, so that actually when the user or the person who interacts with the software, for instance, when he clicks on it, it is going to write its own items. I give it the number 50 for the size. The opacity is set at 50 so that it would be exactly what I would want my final project to look like. Okay, I go back to the project space. I set the placeholder, enter your list. Let's see, what is it here? Yeah, enter your list. I don't have the three dots. It makes no difference. I just want it to resemble the final project of ours. Very well, that's for the placeholder. What placeholder? Let's see. Does it contain it contains a variable inside itself, so that we can work with it, with this information, and see the items inside it. And after that we are going to save them and finally start working with them. This is my ID. All right, I close it up to here. This is the input. So finally we have made the header and the input that the user is going to write his own items inside. Okay, now we need a button. This is the button where there is an ION with the suffix .svg that we are going to use on our project, and I am going to explain how we are going to use on our project. All right, so what do? I say button. This is the button, and my button needs an ID so that I can work with it. I call it add. That's up to here. So what do I finally do? Now, what am I going to do inside this button? I am going to have access to the contents inside the SVG file. Okay, now we can perform this in two modes. The SVG files work in a manner so that the icons with the least sized or the smallest icons can be better, but with the highest quality. That is, when you want to use it on the real project on your website, you no longer use PNG files, because PNG has a transparent background that will make undermine your project a little bit. And when you work with them exactly, you can work with the icons. But SVG has a different structure and style. Their structure is similar to the XML files. I am going to explain this to you and show you how you can use them on your projects. In order to make things easier, I add the SVG file inside the project so that you get to know how the things work themselves out. Okay, I have dragged and dropped 3 icons in the usual Studio Code space, and as you see, the nature of these files is so that if you set a PNG file over here, you will only see the image, but the PNG is a combination of a series of codes. SVG, sorry, these codes will show the file. So SVG works on the web so that it can show the more or larger amounts of contents of your file. We can use them in a more professional manner, and if you have paid attention, you notice that working with it is easy. So we no longer use the PNG icons. SVG's nature is so that it has been standardized and it is being thoroughly controlled by XML, and therefore we have overall control over our project. So it is much easier to manage, and because when we want to use them in the project, they are a lot easier to use. That is why here we use it. What we need to do is to make a copy from this section of this SVG file, and here I am going to copy and paste and use it here. So what I have done up to here is to set my icon on my project like this, as you can see over here, and it was pretty easy to do. I copy and pasted this, and finally I pasted it in the HTML body in a space called button. If add, just like this. Okay, that's my header up to here. So I made the header, then I define an input for it. Okay, as you see over here, and now I go to the next item. The next item is the container. The container is the space that we have over here, the items that have not been added yet, and the items that have been added and are done with. So now we go and take care of these options. Okay, here what I do is to say I define a div or div called container, and inside this div I take care of the matters. I have 2 items that we are going to work with, let's see, the items that have not been completed, the ones that are developing and the ones that have been completed. So I say div class, or if we were to be more technical with the codes, here I need to write and use the more technical word, for instance dot container. When I write dot container, I just need to go here, the emmet plugin can be used through this shortcut of the codes. I can easily make the div body. I just need to hit tab button once quite easily. It writes the container. These are some items that help you a lot in coding and speed things up. Okay, quite simply I say I have a UL, a list item. In this item I want to have an ID. We have a class. Inside this class I write, let's see, what do I write? Of course I give it an ID. I call it ID to do. Now I am working with it. That's the first item. And what is the next one? The items that have been completed or finished and are therefore done with. Where do they go? Class. The same to do is passed to it, but this time around my ID is going to be finished or completed. Okay, like this. And finally I close the UL. We have a script file over here that I add. After this tag I go over here, exactly here, I say script. Okay, like that, script. When I hit a script, src or source, let me, okay, yeah, I want this a script, src, I say a script.js, I pass the script file. Now I click on it so that I can see the exact file of mine, just like this. Okay, and it works. All right, that's up to here. So we have the body of our project now, and using this initial body, now we are going to take care of the rest of the tasks. I close these three icons over here. Now I go to a style.css. The first thing that I am going to do in the style.css is to design the header and body section. Okay, so I open the style.css file. I type body, just like that. As you can see, that's up to now. My body has a background, of course, exactly in proportion to the file UI that I have defined. I want to give it its coloring, so I say sharp. Okay, I use that specific sign, sharp. I use the code 0f1 at 0f1. I give it a padding. First I give it 80 pixels. I use this code to take care of the operations. Okay, and finally 3 zeros, triple O's, that's the zeros. Very well. Now simultaneously with my developments, I want to be able to see what I am doing. So what do we do to be able to do that? I said first let's save this. Now I hit this. I need to have this project as a folder. Okay, like that on the Visual Studio. So I erase this, I add an open folder, and inside this open folder I make select folder so that I will be able to work with the plugin. That's up to here. Now what I need to do is that I pass the index to it and finally close it. I set it at the beginning of our codes, and style.css the second one, and finally main.script.js the third one. And now using the extension go live, I am going to enable the option of being able to see the project in real time so that we know what's going on. If you agree, we take care of the rest of the job in the coming video. Alright, in the previous video we analyzed how the body of this project needs to be designed. We added an icon and now we are going to get on with the rest of the job. We have a CSS file. Now I am going to hit the go live button so that I will be able to see the project in real time. Okay, here I wanted to have a design that gives us a better perspective on what is happening around us. So this is how we start. We have an input and a button that are going to be our background for the rest of the job, where we build up from there. I reload so that we would have this file. Of course, we still have not added the style.css file here. So what do? What I do is, let's see, I type link css style.css, so that's up to here. I have finished the background and this is the 80 number that I have given it for its size and the rest of the items. Now we are going to deal with the fonts. Here I write body, okay, along with the input, and then what do we have? The button. I want the font to be like this. Okay, and I have given it the font family. Now the next item is called header. Now we want to take care of the header, so I say header. I give it a width and a height. I set the width as 100%. It fits the page. It should be completed 100%. A height that will be 80 pixels. Okay, and that's for the height. The next item is the position. This position, the formats that we have, I want it to be fixed. That is the fixed on top of the project above the header. I want it to be fixed. I zoom in a little bit so that you see how things are working out. Okay, it's exactly like this. We want it to be fixed so that we would be able to see it here. Okay, that's up to now. So we gave it the height and set the fix. The next item that we need to have is a padding format. I say it should have 15 pixels. The padding that's here like this. I want my input to be, or to have some space. I set it a padding. We have the left and right padding, but I want to give it a padding so that it would make some distances in between. I say 0. It would fit right here. But by choosing padding, the padding adds some space. The left side would be 0, and I go to the next. There is a feature called z-index. What z-index does is to apply the cover on my project. Next, I want to give it the background and the other items. I say the background. Okay, the background here. Okay, I say sharp. The code that I need to give it, 25B 99A. The color code that is here. Let me check if it is. No, it was not the same. I thought it was, but it isn't here. I copy paste and erase it so that we would have the same one on both sides. This is the background. The next option is the shadow. I zoom in a little bit so that you see what is going on exactly. Okay, there is a shadow. Now based on the shadow, we are going to give it the values. I say box shadow. As soon as I give it the box, it provides me, let's see, what does it provide me? I say the value. Okay, we have 3 parameters: the darkness, the extension, And what should it be? I work on 2 items. I say have 0 pixel. I give it 4. As you see, we have set 0, nothing happens. Imagine I set 50 pixels here instead of 0. In fact, the first item is what I want it to be set on the object, and the next would be 4 pixels. That is, the value of the number of this would be 4 pixels. We can increase it as well as we want to. The darkness would be clear. I have 4 here, and finally I say, sorry, here I need to hit 2 pixels just like here. Now the color, here I have set the color. I need RGBA color code. I say RGBA. Okay, that's up to here. We have 4 parameters: green, blue, and alpha. Red, green, blue, and alpha. Or the brightness, I set the red as 44. Okay, the green would be 62 based on what I have on my project, because I have performed this project once and know what to give it exactly. And now we are relaying it, and finally 015. Now the item is working properly. Let's reload it like this. Now we have the shadow over here, so this is the part for the header. Now let's see what I have inside the header. I have an input inside the header. Header input has a type and an ID. Okay, I go down and say now the header, and it has an input H, header, and input. Now I start writing the next items. I say set the width as 100%. That's all right, 100%. It has a height that is being applied over here. Now I am working on this. The background and shadow are all right. Okay, the next item, I say height. Height would be 50. Okay, I say 50 pixels. It is working properly. As you see, the next item we have a state called float. I set the float on the left so that I can work with it like this. I set the color. What would the color be? I can write white and work like this. Okay, it works properly with no problems. I can even write sharp, for instance 3F. The 3F are there for the code of white color. Now I want to give it 2 fonts, the font size and font width, so I set them. I set the font size as 15 pixels, the 125 pixels that we had. And the next item is font width, and font determines the boldness. I say 400 would be all right. The width, that is the boldness, would be 400. As we set it over here, we can even increase it, say for instance 600, but we want to work with a project better. All right, 600 would be set over here. The next item is the padding, that is the indentations. Thus we enter has some space to this we add some space to this input, so we need to take them into account. The initial value is 0, the secondary value would be that, and we have 2 more items. We set it 2 zeros. That's for coloring, and the background RGBA 3 and RGBA. As you see, RGB has 3 parameters: red, green, blue, short for red, green, blue. But RGBA is for alpha, that is here. We want to give it the value of alpha, so I want to use the RGBA, the number I give it over here, 3 to 55, according to what we are doing here. We say 255. Okay, 255, and finally, what value should we give it? let's say 210. So that's up to now. As you see, the background looks like this. Now I need to give it a border radius, and finally I need to remove the indentation. I say border radius, okay, border dash radius. Okay, in fact I have 4 spaces: upper left, upper right, and lower right. So I give it 4 values. The first value would be 5 pixels. Okay, the upper left value. The next would be 25, and finally again we have 5. That's the values that I enter. I increase the items based on the image that we have. Okay, let's see. Well, that's all right. No, we have the order radius here. We have the border radius here. We have the border is black color that is here. It makes things unseemly a little. I need to set the value of the border as I say 0. That means show nothing. That's for here. Now we go to the next item. We have a shadow, box shadow. The border here has a shadow. That's it. I say the box shadow that we had. Okay, of course. So let me see if it has a box shadow or not. Let me check and zoom in over here. Let me see. Yeah, it does. But if it didn't, it would be much better. Usually in the user interface that we have, it would be better, but it isn't working right now. This box shadow needs to be set at 0, so I say box dash shadow 0. I don't want it to have a shadow. That's up to here. Now, and finally we need to set the outline as well. I set the outline as, what should it do, equal with none. That's up to here. We have 2 other values. There is a point here. We need to set the appearance values in our different browsers. This appearance is a feature that is attached to the style in different browsers. For instance, in the Mozilla browser or other browsers, it has been defined in a standard fashion like this. We say dash MOZ. As you see, when we say dash MOZ, this MOZ is for the Fox 9. If we want to use all the Firefoxes, these properties, the feature here is called appearance. Dash appearance would be applied. Appearance is set as none. Okay, this is for the older browsers. And we also have dash WebKit. In the WebKit, it would adapt itself to the older browsers such as Safari and Chrome. And in fact, I give it the appearance here, WebKit. Okay, dash appearance, I thought this as none. Okay, that's up to now. Another point, we need to set it as white. Exactly like this. We need to make some indentations and then analyze other options with it. Okay, here we need to make the coding more professional. So finally, what I do and what I commit myself to do is, here I say we had an input, the placeholder. I have an input type here. I say 1. I want to write the codes more precisely, so I say header input. Okay, header input. That's right. Okay, now what we need to do here is to, well, let's say I have a placeholder. The enter text here is pointing out the same fact. Okay, I say dash web. I set it here. Alright, WebKit input place holder, input placeholder. I want precisely this. I say open this. Let me delete this here. So things are improved. I say the color, I need to set this in the older browsers. I set this number here, and here I say I want 75. That is the RGB here, 3255 of 75%. The next point is to have the same thing on the Mozilla. So let's make a copy from it and paste it here. Here I say WebKit. Okay, WebKit impose. Alright, that's what we have here. I need to remove these so that my code works alright. Of course, there is an error that occurred over here. Let's see why. Yeah, a parenthesis is missing, so we add the missing parenthesis, which is needed and necessary. Very well. Now we need to add an input placeholder. Okay, that is, we need to give it these three features. We need to include these in all three. Okay, that's it. Here I have this as well to finish things off. Okay, now we go to the button. Now we want to design the button. I move down a bit. Okay, here I say now we want to write the item related to the button. So if you agree, in the next video we are going to analyze the items related to the button. Very well, we get on with the rest of the job. Now we are going to work on the header and button and the options related to it. So I say header, and now I have the button here. What I want to do again is I have a width and a height. I set the width at 50. Okay, let me have this one. Okay, this is the button that we have set. We have a height. We set the 50 for it, just like that. Okay, and that's 50. Okay, now we have the positions. Here I say absolute. Okay, that would be set on the item. Now I want to work with it more. I have a tab. I want to make a space between the object. Okay, I say top would be 15 pixels. We need to add some space on the right so that it would be set on the right hand corner. I set 15 for it. And finally what I need to do is to tell it set the z index equal to, so that the items here, that is 1 2 3 5, would be affecting the priorities. I have a border radius here. I say border dash radius. Here we set 25. Here it would be set there. I need to give it a background. I say background dash color. The background over here would receive 0 based on the picture we have over there. The background would be thoroughly white, and this plus icon, we are working on it. I go back a little bit so that I will be able to see things clearly and work on this part. Now I go back, hit enter. Okay, now the line around it, just like the input we had here, we have a border here as well. I remove the border. Okay, border, I set it 0 so that I won't have a border. and I don't want a shadow or an outline, we say we don't need box dot shadow. In fact, I said 0 or none. Okay, here like this one. And we don't want the indentation, I said none. And now the items here in the real project, when we have the mouse, when you hover the mouse, the cursor shape changes. That is, it will change to a hand sign. When we move the mouse here, it changes to a hand. So I say cursor would be pointer. That is, when I click on it, it turns to a hand in a normal situation. When I move on it, it changes to a hand sign. So that's up to here. Now we have the appearance like we had before. That is, we want the same thing happen in the border. So here I hit Control C to make a copy, and now we go to the button. The button or the icon needs to change. We need to make some changes like this. Okay, we need to improve the format. So again, the header, and in the header there is a button. In the button we have the SVG code. Okay, the SVG icons. Here we have a width. We set the width at 16 pixels. It shrunk, as you see. What is the next item? We have a height. I set the height at what? I set it at 16. That's up to here. Now we have a position that needs to be absolute. That is, it needs to do the operation on our button. So we have a position over here. Position equals with absolute. It is here. The button is here. It is on the object. And now I set a top and left size for it. Okay, and the center size would be set. So I would say top 15. I guess that would do for the top, 15 pixels, that is. And left would be, well, no. Let's see, here we made a mistake. It needs to be 50. I set the left at 50 pixels. Okay, and let's see what happened. Well, where is the button? Okay, the position here, pixel. It's okay. Yeah, I guess that's all right. Yeah, here I need to set a person sign 50%. Here I need to set the person side. Okay, I reload exactly here. I want to set the margin for it. As you see, I have set top and left, and now I want to do the spacing. For the spacing, I say margin equals, okay, I add a minus to it, for instance 5. Okay, 5 pixels, 2 zeros, and finally that would be 5 pixels, but it is not at the center. Let's change it to 8, and this one would be 8. Okay, now it is working properly. Well, so that's what we have up to here. Now, in fact, we need to add a fill here as well. Add it to the header, an SVG icon and a header fill. I copy this here. I go over there and write dot fill. That's the first thing I do, and in this section, okay, dot fill dot. Okay, what's the matter? See, I add dot fill here. Here I write fill. Now the number that I want to give it is like this one. Well, 25B 99A. Okay, 25B 99A. Okay, and now this is the code that I gave it. Okay, of course this color code needs to be this number. Let's check what code it is exactly. So I need to set the exact same thing. Okay, the internal color needs to be the same with this one. Now let's go to the container. Now I want to set the container right. Okay, so here we have this one up to here, and we are going to do the replacing so that things are all right. Okay, now here I say dot container. Okay, container. Now I want to write the code for the container over here. Let me see if it's okay so that we don't have any problems with the container. Here I copy and paste this. Okay, no problem. Here we have corrected it. Now we are going to correct the lower part. Let's see how it is. Of course, we need to do something else. In fact, we need to give the no fill feature to this background so that the background does not have the fill feature. So let's correct this part and take the fill feature from it. In fact, the header, for the header, I go over there, I say dot fill, no fill. Okay, like that. Now I write the items related to it and associated with it. For its fill, I say it needs to equal 1. That's it. Okay, I go down. Now we want to analyze the container. Here in the container, I have a width set 100%. Okay, now I want to set it on the left because the items are float and left-sided. Okay, of course, this left-sidedness does not refer to the text align. What we mean by left-sided is the items that are in the positions are on the left. Here we are setting the float as left-sided. It could be right as well. Okay, here I say float, I set left, and we want to have a padding. Okay, padding would be 15 pixels up to here. The padding is now here accessible to us. So that's the container up to here. Now what is the next item? The next item is the UL topic. Here in the UL I define a to do and I completed them. Each one of them has an ID. Now I want to say what to do, so I say here UL dot to do. Okay, to do. Alright, well, we need to show a list. That is what we have here is a list. In this list we are going to analyze the items one by one. Here we have a box. Inside this box there is a text and 2 icons, and finally a liner or a border that we have around it. We say it has a width. The width needs to be set at 100% or the full width. The next item, sorry, here I missed something. Let's check it out and correct the mistake. So let me work with the rest of the options and we will take care of that later. Let's do it here. I will say UL dot to do. Here we need to set the space right. When we set the width on 100%, that is. Here we have a left float as well. We give it the left float so that things would be better. I have given it the space. We have height, that is the minimum height. This minimum height can be 50 pixels. This is 50. Again, float. I set the left. I want to set the phones. I say phone family. I set the phone family. Here I want to use the Windows standard font, and let's see, a font width I set as 500. Okay, and that's it. 15. Okay, now we set the color. Let's see what is the color code over here. Here I copy the color code. Sharp. I want it to have this code up to here. The next item that I want to set for it is a line height. So what the line height would be, line height, the space between these items. Okay, here the space between these, I set the line height, let's say at 25. 25 would do at this moment, and 25, we can change it later. We have a background color, the color would be white, so I say sharp, yep, the sharp sign, 0, and that's what we have up to here. Our space has a border radius, so we say border dash radius. Okay, and here, hello again. In the last video we completed the style.css, and I tried to incorporate some adjustments in the color. Okay, now our style is ready. What we wanted is available here. Now we want to complete the JavaScript files together. Alright, we have used the forings on our projects. We work with the functions, with the if commands, of course, and we also work with the element by ID add listener and lots of other methods and functions that we incorporated on our projects. Now we are going to talk about the objectivism on this project and how it's going to be utilized so that you become familiar with it. First, in order to send and receive the information, we are going to use the JSON format. Okay, in the previous session we got to know JSON and we explained some basic stuff on it. Now here we are going to talk about JSON in a much better format. It's a much better format for sending and receiving the information on our subject. In this regard, I have opened w3school.com so that we get some information on it, that we can have access to them here. In fact, JSON structure is so that it is not dependent on any special programming language. One of the items that we can work with on JSON is the front-end programming languages and other languages as well. Imagine if you want to work with ASP.NET or JSP, it would be much better to work with a framework such as JSON, that is sending and receiving the data occurs through JSON, so that things become better. So let's analyze the JSON topic and see how we can use JSON on this project. First, I want to define a variable. I write let data equals, first I use local storage using the get item. Okay, use the storage to get the item. Alright, first I want to receive a string, so I write get list over here. Get, we'd better write it like this, but here let me see, get list. Okay, here we need to have to-do list probably. Okay, yeah, here we need to have to-do list. We might get an error using get list, so we say to-do list. Now using JSON format we are going to start working. After question mark I say JSON.parse. We set the message in parse, so we say local storage, okay, dot get item, get to-do list. Alright, okay, well, and after we have returned it, I want to have 2 items in the to-do list when an operation is performed and when an operation needs to be completed. So here I say colon open close brackets. I have a to-do. It looks like this. This is the first item that we took care of, and when it is completed or finished, completed, okay, then what? It looks like this. So I have 2 modes when my operation is finished. Let's zoom in to see what's happening and get a better perspective on what is occurring on the software. Let's zoom in again a bit more, would be better. Okay, zoom back a little perhaps. Very well, I adjusted the Visual Studio Code to work better. Here, as you can see, we have used the word let instead of where. If you run into a problem anywhere on the project, we are working with ECMAScript after all. If you run into an error, then we are going to change this let to where. Okay, very well. Here I close the command so that I start from local storage. By local storage we mean the current system that we have access to and are working with. We are not on the internet or anywhere special. What we want to do now is, at first we are going to write a function whose task is to process the data on the to-do list, the to-do list that we have written on our own. We are going to analyze the render and similar items for it. So here I say render to do, okay, list. Now we are going to complete this together, and at first I want to write function and then I start working with it. First, using methods such as get element by ID, which is a very common method. We are going to import add event listener related to the click event, so that when the user clicks on this button, an event listener will occur and it is going to read the add ID that we talked about over here. Okay, and finally it is going to add the value of the item related to it. Alright, and add it and set it in this section. So what do I want to do? Like this, I say document dot get elements by ID. What is my ID? It is add the ID that we had over there. This is my add dot add, and event listener, we have imported something through clicking. That is, when I do the clicking, it will start, and then we have a function that has no input or output value. That's up to here. So I do some importing using the clicking and add ID. So I want to define a variable that gets the items one by one, that is, okay, using the add value item. So I say where value, what let's see, what is it, like this. Okay, document dot get element by ID. What do I want to do here? I want to recall the item here. The item is something that the user is going to get by clicking on this bottom. Its dot value will be performed, and finally here, using the if command, I say, what do I say? If the value that has been entered was received, then do what? Then say add item. Okay, what should it add? Item, the value that you received up to here. So we have done this. Now we add an item here as well. What is this item going to be? This item is going to add the item that we need and work with. That's up to here, but now we want to analyze, that is, we want to find out exactly if, for instance, let's say, imagine here we want to define an event. If the user, now we set the if condition started working with keyboard, this event will happen, that is, this add item will occur. So here, let's first lose the commands, get rid of them, remove them, simply just discard them. Let's see if it is okay. Alright, and what happens here? Well, it doesn't seem right. Let's see what's wrong with it, find out what kind of problem there is. I have add value over here, open bracket, add item value, and here finally we close it. Okay, up to there. We are going to take care of his issues. After all, very well. Now I say document.get element by ID. Now do what? Now let the item, okay, when you get the item, when you get the item, pass an add event listener to it. Then do what? Then with a key down event, when the key down event happens, as you see, keyboard event, focus event, alright, drag or error event. These are the mouse events. Pointer event is related to keyboard event, and HTML event can perform other stuff. But regarding the key down subject or topic, we want to have the operations related to compression and adding the item here. And finally we have the function here. In this function we are going to have a variable. The variable is going to be called that. Okay, and now we are going to work with it. We pass it to that. That's up to now. And after this, what happens is that we need here, let me, if we remove this and add this one, okay, let's see what's going to happen. Here it would be okay. So this needs to look like this, and finally I close the semicolon. Okay, that's up to now. Now we are going to deal with E1. Through this E1 we are going to pass the values. Now I say where value, I define a variable called value. Now I say receive the current variable. This variable is going to do that. After you receive it, analyze it using the if command that we said. We say if. What are we going to do in the if? We say e.code. As you see, it is a property. By e we mean event. e.code 3 equal what? Can you guess? Equal enter of the keyboard when this happened. Now do what? Now what should happen? Do you have any idea what is happening? Of course, we can set an or for it. We have two enter buttons on the keyboard. One of them is at the center of the keyboard or above shift, and we have an enter on the number pad. We want to take into account both of them, so we say if it entered this one or the E button one, it equals number, that is the enter numpad. Sorry, let's see, enter, that is if it started operating on the numpad, enter. Now do what? I need to have a value, so I say and value. Okay, That is, if it enters this one and the value that I received, now perform the add item. Okay, like we are doing right now. Of course, here I need to set a parentheses. Okay, let's see if it is okay now. Well, there is something wrong over here, and I need to change these to parentheses. Okay, now it's okay. We need to have another one here. It needs to be WWO. So this is not open close brackets. Let's see, it needs to look like this. Okay, now I open close bracket. Now it looks like good, and now I have gotten rid of that. You need this, say add item that I had. What does it have? This one here, just like that. We don't have anything else to do, so I close it. And now what we want to do is to write the add item value function. Add item value is a function, and value is something that adds the current value. So here what I do, I say function. In this function I say add item. Finally value, it is going to do this. I say add item to DOM add item, or DOM add item. To DOM I define to DOM as to how it is. DOM is short for document object model. In the advanced topics we talked about it. Here I want to pass a value to it, so I say when you have done this, the ID that you have received here using get the item dot element by ID, then pass its value. And when you have done this, when an item has been received, have an empty output. There shouldn't be anything left over here, like this. I say document dot get element by ID. What was the ID? It was item. Okay, the item that we have here, the item that we have. What are you going to delete? We say value, only the one that is here. When you have added it, okay, delete it from here. I don't want to have anything, so I say data dot to do. Okay, dot, I use push is used. Push is push and get that we analyzed before. This is acting as an array here, this value. And finally, when you have added it, we say data object. Okay, data object, data object update. Now we need to write data object update for it. On the other hand, we say when you have added this, then perform the operation. I refuse to write it now. We get on with the rest of the work in the next video. Okay guys, in the follow-up we have now reached to an item called data object update. This data object update is a function that we are going to finish later. We write it together. I say it is item here, so that later on we are going to make the function related to it. Okay, that's up to here. Data object. Okay, update, very well. Now we deal with the next topic. What we are going to do is to analyze the complete item topic. See what complete item topic is. If you have paid attention, we said in the to-do list, we said we have a to-do and a complete item. The complete item, we want to take care of the items related to it and move forward then. That's up to here. Now what I am going to do is to write function for the complete item. Okay, complete item. Okay, right now we don't have an input or output because we want to work with it from the start. Here we work with it. So right now I say, what do I say? Let's see, I say where item, where for variable item equals this. Okay, dot parent node. Okay, let's write this here, dot, okay, parent, that's up to here. I'm going to talk about parent node more. I make a variable called parent. Okay, for this parent I say this Python dot parent node. That's up to here. We are working with the ID, the where ID equals parent dot ID. Okay, that's it. And finally the last item, I want to get the value where value, okay, equals item dot inner text. Okay, inner text. Now I pass the item to it one by one so that we can work with them. Alright, first here we are going to perform these actions in 3 modes. At first we need to check if the ID value equals to do that the user is going to add. So we set an if condition. We say if ID that we have received equals to do, then do what? Then say data dot to do. Okay, here data split. Well, we don't have it. Sorry, splice, not split. Yeah, we will explain the splice function later on. Data dot complete. When we have written complete dot index of, yeah, that's right. What does it want to determine? The value. We talked about index of in the basic courses. We use index of to determine the type of the values, and here I give it the value of 1. And then what do I do? That's up to here. Now I say data dot complete. It means data which are finished. Dot when I take into account the push item, I pass the value to it. Now to add it, that's up to now. This was in case that to do exists. Now if the to do did not exist, then act differently. I say the same item that we had before is here too. First I have checked to see if the item has been completed or not. Now I want to determine it using the else command and identify it. So I say else. In this else I have the same thing. I copy paste it to have this item, but instead of complete, this would be to do. This is the difference. It checks once. If the ID equals to do, then complete it. If the item still was on to do, then push the value and pass it the value. That's up to here. And then the data object starts working. Now what should it do here? It needs to update here. That is, after it has added it, then do the updating. Alright, that's up to here. Now what do we do next? We want to write an if, so that if the item has been completed on the list, or if its state is complete on the list, then what should it do? It should either re-add the list or start working on the to-do list. How? we say where we define a variable called target, where target equals ID that we have over here, sorry, the ID that is here. If it equals to do, then do what? Work on it using a question mark. Document.getElement by ID, return which ID? The complete ID, in order not to make a mistake later on. I'll copy and paste these so that we won't have any problem in that regard. And when you have done this, say document.getElement, alright, by ID. Now have to do, okay, and after to do, the command is close. That's up to here. Now the parent that we define here is for the item that we are going to work with. Now we need the parent. We say therefore, as a result, parent, okay, the parent that I wrote over here, dot remove. Alright, now I need to write a function related to it, associated with it, remove child. What should it remove? Child, remove child, the item. Okay, here we are talking about erasing, and we are talking about erasure right now, like this, dot insert before target, dot insert before, yeah, it belongs to the node's topic, insert before in parentheses. When you have received the new item, then determine the target to know from where you want to delete it, and finally pass a child node here. Child node has an array form. Okay, if I give it 1 here, it is going to delete the next item if it adds 1 and deletes the next. For instance, if you have added 2 items, instead of deleting the first one, it is going to delete the second one by adding 1. As you know, it starts from 0. Now we are going to start and work with the render list function that we wrote here. In the render list, it is going to start reading the list that it wrote here. So I write a function like this. I say function render list. That's up to now. But erase this. Add open close bracket. I check if the data is not inside I. Okay. That is, we are going to take into account the length. I say if I want to work on this section, if I were to take into account the data, I can take into account the length of the data to see if there is an item here or not. I could do it differently, but the best thing that occurred to me was to use the length of the item that is over here, return the value, and if it has been completed, it is going to return it for me. So here I say, let's see what I say. If data dot to do, okay, dot len, if this is len, the length of it, that is, or what, either check the length of it. If it does not exist, data dot complete, okay, dot len, get the len here, or the thing that has been done over here and the thing that has been completed or finished off. Okay, if there wasn't anything, then do what? Then return a value for me. Now I write the return here. How? I check using a foreign. Okay, that's it. In the completed project, we have used for, and let's see, the best way to see the item that has been written, I thought might be through a for, but that way it would have been 2 circuitous and 2 intricate. So in the end, what did I do? I analyzed the foreign 2 times. What this foreign does is that it checks and sees if there is an item in nothing to do or complete. So at first I say for the variable that I have, I say where I equals 0, I, that is if the counter is 0, I less than first to do, that is the data, okay, dot to that is here dot length. Okay, first we want to analyze if it existed, add 1 to it. Alright, now what is supposed to happen? Like this. What do I say? Of course, let me correct this so that we don't get an error. Now I say using a variable, check this for me. If it existed, then use the add item to term function. Okay, if it existed, get this, because we want to work with it. We want to get this render and see what items exist here. So I say where value equals data dot to do, work with the I that exists, and we wrote for it. Okay, and of course here, very well, what we do here is to say add item, okay, to the, alright, what the value, that's it. Okay, here let's see what is the error for. The I is okay, no problem there. Up to here is okay, fine. What is the problem? Yeah, here the I here needs to be an array, so we change it to an array. Okay, that's one point, but the foreign that we wrote for it here, yeah, here we shouldn't have said a comma. Anyways, these mistakes happen in programming, so please bear with me. It is totally natural. Now I want to use this for and take into account the complete topic. Quite simply, I copy this to do complete, check if it has been completed, and what I do next, set it here as well, so that we can work with it. Copy pasting here is okay because we are copying the code that we have written by ourselves. We have written the code ourselves. What we need to do here is we had a function called data project. We need to write data object here. I say function, okay, open closed parentheses. That's right. Here what do we want to have? I say local storage that we had at the beginning dot set item, that we are going to pass some methods to do what? Say to do list that we define up there. Let's say if it is capital L, yeah, to do list, yep, and the to-do list that we had over here. And now finally I say JSON, okay, dot stringify, in fact here using pay identify, we can give a key to the value. This key is going to do a certain act, is going to define a key, and if it did not exist, that is, that key did not exist, then what? Then it is going to make the items for that key. So here we set this function, we say have what? We say get the data that the user is going to work with, and that's up to here. Very well. If you agree, in the final video we are going to check the rest of the items and see if we had an error. We are going to go with the other items. Be with me. Very well, in this video we are going to deal with the remove item function. Now we are going to delete it. How is deleting happening? Well, over here, I move this down. I say function. Let me check if I have the remove here, the remove item, so that we can use the exact same thing, so that if it doesn't work, right, let's see over here, remove item. Well, we don't have it, we write it, there is no problem with it. We say remove item. The remove item has no input, and we start working with it. In this case, as we did with the complete item, we are dealing with 4 variables. Okay, these 4 variables over here, I make a copy out of them. Alright, that's up to here. We are dealing with these. What is the second issue? The second issue is for when it wants to delete an item. Okay, it is going to do the same thing that we did with the splices, just like that. There is no difference over here. Although there we used to use the push method, but over here when we determine the data type, we are going to perform the operation. So in order to speed things up over here I copy this one, okay, so that I won't have to write it. If I do, so far so good. Now I say data.splice. Now we say data2, that is being worked on and has not been completed. We set the next item as complete. We say dot index of value and 1. Why? Because we have done so once. Now we are going to do the same thing, dot complete. This is the first difference. What is it? Complete dot splice. Now I say data dot complete dot index of, we give it the value and finally 1. Here we are not dealing with push. Push is for adding. Here we are going to remove. Here the data object has been updated. It is okay, but now we are going to take the remove child into account for it, and we say the child is going to be deleted, is going to be called with a parent. So finally the item related to my remove has been completed. We just did some simple replacings. First we said in order to complete it, use push, that is take into account all the items, determine the types, and after you have determined the type, complete them. And in case to do equals the item, now pass it the push operation. Here we have remove according to this, with the difference being that there's not that item available. That is, we have removed the push and the rest are the same items. So if you go over here, let's see if my project is working properly or not. Before doing that, let's take this into account. Yeah, a script.js, this is the script. Okay, we start the final project. Here say, for instance, watch TV. I hit add. Alright, why isn't anything happening? Let me go to the script. We are going to analyze the problem together. We go over here. Let's go through the necessary steps so that if we can find a problem, I am dealing with this item. Okay, add item. Here probably we need to do something here. We have a function add item. Here add item to DOM. It is okay. We are passing it the necessary value, the value that it needs. Okay, get element by ID, the item that we are going to take into account here. We have made it dot value, and then we have set data. Here I do this, I say data dot to the do button, and finally I update it. What's the problem? Let's see, it's okay. Up to here there's no problem, but why isn't it working? I reload and say watch, okay, TV today. Alright, and our add button doesn't work. We need to check it out. Here add item is okay. Here get element by ID, it is the same. Our click item here, we have the render list as well available to us, and it's okay, nothing wrong with it either. What's the matter? Let's see. With the function over here, we need to analyze them minutely. We can just pass them up, hoping the problem would just go away. Here we set value. Whenever you do something, have a dot value item over here. It is okay. Have get element ID add. Let's check if add over here is okay. Yeah, add is okay. No problem with that. Alright, here I have done some checking up over here. There seems to be no problem. At least we need to have the add, of course. We shouldn't forget that, and that's to have an icon for delete in our project. We shouldn't forget to have this icon. Alright, before render list, I want to have the icon related to delete so that I can set it inside the box. So what do I do over here to include that icon on my list here? Well, let's see. Very well. There are some codes that I have written here, nothing special, just the usual stuff. I have defined two variables over here. Let's separate these two so that you can see we have a remove and a complete section. That's it. Two of the icons that I had on my project. Here we had a remove and a complete, so I have added the icons related to it. If I reload, nothing will show up here. First we need to check the actions of other items. Okay, here let's see what else what we got. Okay, now we need to write a couple of other codes for deleting and adding the buttons. There are some other codes that need to be written over here first. Okay, so let's do that. Very well. Here one problem that we used to have and I got rid of, we had a text and complete topic in the add item to DOM section that we should have written, but I copy and pasted it. Nevertheless, there is no cause to worry. I will explain it to you. If you have paid close attention, we had a variable called add item to DOM. By DOM we meant the object that we had here. I hit reload once to prepare everything. Here we define a function called text and complete. Text is the input parameter that is going to be typed here, and complete is going to be typed here by clicking add event listener. We define a list here that receives a complete parameter, and we have two IDs, one for complete and one for to do. These two items that we had were passed here, and that's what pretty much what we have up until now and what we have accomplished. The buttons element and remove, and finally complete regarding the items using create element that we added and li to now print the print items here one by one. A very simple thing to do. What is the next item? It is button. When I define the button here, I said using the div that I have here, then perform the operations on the project, that is get the div from here, and then the complete topic using the buttons variable, and finally remove. Remove is done in the same format, but the remove happens in this way. The remove SG icon that we had right here, we pass it to it. We have a remove SG and we have a complete SVG. They were two icons in the first session. We set these two icons, and here it has the buttons and the remove option. Now what we did was to define an add define listener. We said using the click event do what? Do the removing. That is, when we click the remove icon and add event listener, with a click event would be imported. Now what is it removing? It is removing the remove item. What that we define for it. Remove is item one by one. That's one side of the job. The other side is to complete it. What does it mean? That is, when we click on a green button, if I hit it here, it would show up. When we click the green button here, this would be completed to the complete, and it would go to the complete section. First it would go to the to do section, and when we click on it, it goes to the complete section. That's how it is done. And here in this section, the add event listener performs complete.item by the clicking event, and finally we have the remove and complete buttons over here whose operations have been performed. And an item that was very important here, and you shouldn't have forgotten it, I had a lot of trouble with, that is when it wants to insert a list. That caused some problems for me. Then we would pass it the value, whereas we should have passed the item to it. Here personally, just working with it, in this part I ran into a lot of trouble, but I finished it anyways. So here I hit reload and write here, okay, I watch TV today. Here, as you see, it is working now by clicking the to-do section. Here has been completed. What is the next item to be had? Let's see, car wash, or let's just say car clean. Yeah, that would be better word. Okay, car clean. Here we say car clean, cleaning the car. Now we have another item here, for instance, play music, and finally so many other stuff. We can add whatever we want one by one and move them down and get done with the rest of the job. What is really much more interesting here is that in fact the add item to DOM is showing itself here how I want to have the complete. When I hit complete, the play music has been completed. I hit the delete button to have remove item. We have defined an add event listener, and now we want to have remove as well. So here that is quite simply, it is working over here. At the end I hit this and we have this one. Now we don't have anything here, and it returns the item that is going to do the appending. We do another adding, for instance aisles, yeah, aisles, for instance, imagine 7.5, and I add it. And finally, what do? I set this in the complete section. So in the end here we succeeded in performing the job, but I have provided you with a complete source of the project, and you will be able to have it as a test. Imagine you will have the editing of the items here. Imagine this is aisles 7.5 or 7.5. You would set a pencil button here, and using this pencil it is going to start working upon clicking, and it is going to be set over here or in the same item that is right here, as you see, and thus you will be able to have the editing section. Through a simple search on the internet, you can easily customize it for your own special use and have the edit section over here. Okay, so I hope that we would have succeeded in teaching you and reviewing the basic and advanced items, and I hope you have learned from such a review. And again, I emphasize to you not to suffice to these tutorials. Try to learn the items one by one by searching the internet, by searching the Google, and learn a lot of things on it. JavaScript, as you may know, is a very powerful programming language, and besides being powerful, it is going to help you a lot in becoming a professional programmer on the web and even mobile topics. Now what we are going to do is to explain some other items to you. As you see, it is a responsive mode, the item that I personally loved working with. I introduced you to a website, wappleizer.com. In the Wappleizer, you would get to know the new technologies available for programming. In fact, when you have the site on the main page, it looks like this. I give you a short explanation on this technology. The name shows for itself. Identify technology on website. In fact, what it does is to discuss the technologies that have been utilized on different websites. But how? Imagine this W Appleizer here can be installed on Chrome and Firefox browsers. It is, as a matter of fact, an extension that can be added. You will be able to access that topic. The interesting and important point here is that when you add the extension, here an icon would be shown. As you see here, it says it is using a JavaScript library called Snap, and quite easily it analyzes the technologies on the site. Now we are going to a miscellaneous website that provides us with similar kinds of information, and let's see with what technologies that has been written. In these technologies you have a category, and in the category section, as you see, different topics have been included. For instance, in the advertising network field, you are able to see the associated technologies. Here, there are the analytics, blogs, catch tools, CDN, the famous CDNs that we work with, like the CDNs for different companies, Google, Cloud, Amazon, and Azure. These are what we are working in, what CMSs we have, and how these CMSs work. Each one of these that you choose, you will be easily able to see from which technologies these websites have availed themselves and are benefiting from just by a simple click. There are also the web framework, there are the web servers, and the things that we can use a lot, the mobile framework. And the important items that we wanted to emphasize are these three: JavaScript libraries, graphics, and frameworks. We wanted to make you better acquainted with these three regarding the programming languages. In the statistic that you see here, the PHP, as you see, is the most popular, using 82%. It owns the greatest proportion in the world of programming, whereas the ASP.NET that I am using falls into other section over here. So ASP.NET is still quite green compared to PHP. Of course, they match up in terms of a strength and powerful point, but still most of the developers around the world and the web-centered networks use PHP language due to its strengths. We have no axe to grind over here, so I'm trying to be completely honest, and here we need to admit that PHP is quite powerful and has various abilities. We have the web framework topics. In the web framework, the Bootstrap has the second position, and beside it, Microsoft ASP.NET. ASP.NET is a net framework. As you know, this net framework shares the second place, which is a lucky sign over here, showing that it's powerful. But Bootstrap, as you see, that is used in web designing. If you click on any one of these over here, any one of these icons that you see, for instance, if I click on Microsoft ASP.NET and click on Bootstrap, you will be able to have the websites responsible for it and see them. We have two famous sites, W3 School, that you got to know during the course. The Sport 3 site of ours has been written by ASP.NET. Right now, create a list. This number is showing the number of websites that have been written with ASP.NET Framework. 630,000 websites have been written using ASP.NET Framework. The next item is Bootstrap. The number of websites that have been written under Bootstrap or using Bootstrap are GitLab and Netflix, the TV series, which is a TV series and movie website, a very famous one that I'm sure you're familiar with. that is not accessible in some specific countries, and these are the things that we can use to have a thorough statistics on these technologies. We also have the web servers. The web server Apache is on top, Nginx has the second place, and finally IIS, Microsoft, stands at third place. And if you open the Apache, as you see, and the websites whose web server is or are Apache, this is the electronic payment sites, the bbc.com site, bbc.uk for United Kingdom, for the BBC networks, and many other web servers that have been using the same technology as we introduced to you. It is so powerful that about 3,400,000 websites have been designed under Apache web server. Regarding mobile frameworks as well, the jQuery mobile framework can be used to enable us websites like the one that you have here. Let me open some of these. I hope they are not filtered so that we will be able to see how they work. Here, DigitalOcean, overall DigitalOcean has been written with jQuery as well. That is the W Appleizer here. If you open it here, the associated items are being shown to us, and there is a website on digital items and many more that you are able to see. It works on such topics, with all of the websites having the programming field in common, but it is a reputable site on this topic, and it has been working for several years now. We don't deal with other websites. We won't have anything to do with them, but now we go to the JavaScript libraries, framework, and graphics. In the libraries, jQuery stands for here. jQuery here is used in the aesthetics of the project for the JavaScript itself. We work with it in our advanced course. As you notice, we use it to beautify our website, the framework associated with JavaScript. We have a JavaScript graphic on which chart.js has the first place. If you open it, it says, let's see, this is the one, JS chart D3. Let's see how are the websites that are using these. These are the frameworks that are very practical in programming world. Let's see how are these sites here in the chart section. Okay, let's see how are these sites. Most of them are the news websites. The charts that you see here are chart.js. This has been written with or using PHP, and you can determine the web server. You can see which proxy it is using, which Java library it is using, and other items available over here that you can see. I'll close the charts here, this one as well. And finally, web frameworks. D3 is using these websites over here. As you can see, I close the charts here, this one as well. And finally, web framework, D3 is using these. Here, as you see, you can see how things stand. After all, these are the sites that are active on these specific fields. And finally, framework. In these frameworks, React of the Facebook stands on top. That is one of the most powerful front-end programming frameworks. It contains another technology called React Native. Using React Native, you will be able to design native mobile applications, and you can get some outputs on the side. These outputs are for Android, iOS, Windows Mobile, and many other platforms, and it is a very powerful technology that now is on top. But among these, the next framework is AngularJS, that is related to the Google and has the or occupies the fourth place, but Backbone and React are among the most applicable frameworks in programming. I suggest you in order to improve in programming. Do not satisfy yourself to front-end languages. Try to learn the JavaScript in a much more professional manner. And if we were to teach all of them, we would have needed to spend hours or even months of constant involvement with JavaScript. But I did my best to present the things in the concise form, so I hope along with your learning you won't forget practice and practice. Don't forget this. Good luck and best of wishes.